Welcome back to another episode of the Red Pill Cartel. Today I have the very wonderful and lovely host of the Superstitions and Traditions podcast. Please welcome Kristi Riley. So
Hello. I love a good kazoo.
do I.
The only instrument I can play.
I like to annoy people with it all the time.
I know, that's the best part of it.
It's funny because I played it for my buddy at work today. I kind of surprised him with it, and he's like, kazoos make any song sound goofier.
That's the best part of a kazoo.
I know. Okay, so yeah, thanks for coming on.
Hello.
I don't even remember how I found you, to be honest.
Instagram, but
Yeah, but it's cool because I reached out to you and said, you know what, like, let's get her on because what you do is up my alley, and kind of want to get you a little bit more exposure. So, because I have a pretty decent audience, right?
awesome.
So first off, where can my audience find you?
I'm on YouTube and I post through Buzzsprout. So I'm on all of the um like podcast sites, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm on Amazon Music, I think.
Like anywhere and everywhere kind of thing.
Yeah, Deezer, Castbox.
Do you have a link tree in your Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll throw that in the show notes, so it'll be the easiest way. They can go wherever they want, right?
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, how long have you been doing your show, and what got you motivated to do it?
We are at a year right now, in December, and I don't know, I was bored. um, my kids are older and they're preteens now, and so they don't need mom nearly as much. And
Right.
I had lost my sister. She passed away from a drunk driving accident.
Sorry to hear
Um,
that.
yeah, she was a passenger on a motorcycle, and the driver
Shit.
was drunk. Um, she was schizophrenic. She had schizophrenia. So I had been chasing her all over the country and helping her raise her 5 kids. So that was like
Wow.
6 people I was no longer responsible for, because when she passed, her kids moved with their dads. And I don't know, it was just I needed something to do.
Schizophrenia with 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, was she sorry, I don't mean to get too personal. It's just kind of
Oh, you're fine.
interesting. Um, was she like medicated and pretty balanced or okay. Wow.
No, she um, was diagnosed bipolar, which we knew like most of her life. And in 2017, our grandparents died. Um, and she started experimenting with drugs and ecstasy. And she got her medical marijuana card license, which here in Oklahoma, it's not recreational, but it is medical. Um, and after she started smoking marijuana regularly and experimenting with other things, the schizophrenia developed,
Mm,
which we learned after the fact that medical marijuana is great for a whole lot of things, especially mental health, except
right,
for schizophrenia.
right.
So,
And from what I gather, I guess it takes a certain type of person or brain to have an onset of schizophrenia with marijuana because some people could smoke it. They smoke it all
yeah,
day, every day, their whole life, and they're fine, right?
yeah,
But like I've looked into like the mental health effects of marijuana, and it can induce schizophrenia,
hmm,
and it,
yeah.
it
I guess it
explains a
has.
lot too
Yeah,
because sometimes like you hear stories of stoners all the time. They're like, oh yeah, I love getting high, and then but sometimes there's getting a little too high where
right,
you start feeling like super anxious or the paranoia kicks in, right?
right.
And that paranoia is one of the symptoms of schizophrenia too.
Yeah,
So
she would
like it freaks
sit
me out
out.
when I smoke it sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I just go to sleep. I don't smoke it very often, maybe a handful of times my whole life, and it just makes me really sleepy. And
Right.
but she would sit outside I had a deck that overlooked a lake outside my back door, and she would sit out there and talk to my umbrella for hours, and was convinced our grandparents' spirits lived in the umbrella. It was just sad.
Wow.
'Cause at one time she wanted to be homeless and lived in the streets of a nearby town, like 30 miles away. She walked there barefoot in sleeting rain. It was just, I lived in my car for 2 weeks. She'd come knock on my door. Can I have a cigarette? No, no, you're homeless. Remember, that's, you don't get to come ask your sister for things while you're homeless. But if you get in,
Ah,
you come home.
yeah. Wow.
But,
Yeah, it's I've talked about schizophrenia on my show quite a bit, and people often say that, maybe they are in touch with something that we can't see, it's a high possibility that, like, even people with autism, it's like we look at them different, but they might be in touch with something on the other side,
oh, yeah.
like in the spirit realm that we are not in touch with. Maybe there's filters that kind of get removed, right?
That's what I do for a living. I'm a social worker, and I
Okay.
work with people with developmental disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, things like that.
You must have a whole interesting foray of people that you meet that
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine could be scary at times.
Sometimes. I had one little guy who he was just, to me, the cutest little thing ever. And to other people, he was really scary. He barked like a seal when he was angry and would throw things. And I don't know, it was funny. They could call me, and they would tell him, we're going to call Kristen. She's going to come over. And I would hear him in the background yelling, don't you call Kristen. I ain't talking to that bitch. Don't you tell that
Oh,
bitch
no
to come in
way.
my house. And I'd put it on speaker. And so I'd be like, I can hear you. And he'd be like, oh, Kristen, I love you. You're my friend. I'm being
Yeah,
whatever. You told me lies. I could
that's
walk in his
hilarious.
house, and he would throw things. He would swipe things off the table, throw them in the floor. He would call you every name in the book. He even made up a few ones, new ones. And I could walk in and be like, dude, what you doing? And he would list. I was being good. I was sitting here in my chair. I was watching TV. I did not. And he would run me through the list of everything he did, saying, I did not do this and I did not do that. And, but I worked with him for 20 years. I lost him to cancer a couple of years ago. It was a
No way. How old?
rough. He was 60, 62.
60.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Wow.
Yeah. He
Whew.
was, I work primarily with adults. I don't have many kids.
Okay. Um, have you been observing what's going on in the US and Canada, and how, it seems that the Democrats are like enabling mental illness.
I'm one of
Uh,
those.
Me too, probably. I have a funny thing after that. But how like giving a kid a litter box because he pretends to be a cat, or giving kids hormone blockers because they think they're the opposite sex, and things like that. What do you have any thoughts on that? Like, have you seen any of that kind of thing?
I haven't, no, I haven't seen any of it. Um, my thoughts, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I'm not going to give them a litter box unless they're going to clean it out themselves because, I'm not taking that responsibility. I don't have cats for a reason. But I'm going to do what is, I don't think children should have hormone blockers just because that is a decision you really can't make without life experience and the cognitive understanding of what you're going to be doing to your body with those.
Sure.
So, as far as children, no. But if my daughter came home to me and said, I am miserable as a girl, I don't think it's right, I'm supposed to be a boy, then by golly, I will call her Clark, whatever she wants. I'm not taking her
Right.
to a doctor and getting her that kind of stuff, but
Right. You do
if
you,
it's
boo, but
right,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
the,
funny because people ask me like, "Oh, what if you had a son and he turned out to be gay?" And I was like,
no,
I can't change that. You know what I mean?
right,
And I wouldn't have a problem with it, but like if I had a 6-year-old boy who thought he was a girl, I'm damn well not gonna fucking let him get hormone blocker because like your
right.
brain isn't fully developed until you're like 25,
Uh-huh.
right?
And see, my
So
my sister, she had 5 kids, and I have three. Between the eight of them, we have one boy. She had the only boy, and we would paint the girls' nails. Well, of course, he'd want his nails done too. He would run around with the little fairy wings and the princess wand, just like his sisters would. But he was the only boy, so he was just trying to fit in.
right, right,
Now, his dad has remarried and he has brothers now instead of just sisters. He's got two stepbrothers and two half brothers, and he is a boy all the way. But I also know that some people would have looked at that and been like, oh, I know you
right,
don't.
right.
He's five.
Like I grew up with 4 brothers and 1 sister. And when
Mm-hmm.
my brothers were gone, my sister was like the last to leave. And, I was like really young, probably like 10 or whatever. But even before that, like she was painting her nails, like, oh, can I try? Right.
Uh-huh.
I turned out to be straight as an arrow. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, but like some people look at that now and they're just like, oh, he must be a girl. Let's chop off his wiener.
Mhm. Right.
It's
And,
like,
just let them be kids.
mhm.
They'll figure life out.
That's the thing. Like, it seems like a lot of these liberal parents are like forcing these things upon, like, I don't know if this was a joke or not, but like there was like a few years back this video of like this woman with her son toddler. Look at my baby, he's gay. It's like how the fuck do you know that?
Yeah, he's not. I mean,
No,
maybe he
I mean,
is. You don't know.
in your mind, you want
Maybe,
him to be
yeah.
gay. I don't get it. It's
Yeah.
crazy. We're in some crazy times.
Oh, yeah.
Like it is crazy. And that's why I
Yeah.
started the show because I had a lot of esoteric and occult knowledge and spiritual knowledge, but I also saw that the world was going really, really strange. I jumped on the podcast bandwagon when COVID happened and people were
Right.
speaking their minds. I certainly want to speak my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few coworkers around me when the whole COVID thing happened, and we were like, this is fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Closing all the mom and pop stores, making
Yeah.
people wear masks. George Floyd just happened. I pointed this out to a lot of people. I said, George Floyd there was this huge meme going around saying, I can't breathe. And now all of a sudden we're all wearing masks
Hmm.
right around the same time, right? And people are like, holy shit, I never thought of that one, right? It's almost like they put that into the zeitgeist on purpose.
Hmm.
But that's my conspiracy brain.
Okay. I mean, I because of my job, I work with a lot of medically fragile folks. So, we would have staff that had no symptoms, but their kid tested positive, and so we were like, well, we need you to test. Well, she would test positive too, no symptoms. And 3 days later, our client is in the hospital because his immune system is so weak. We actually lost a couple of folks to COVID.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's crazy.
mhm.
Um, So tell my audience what your podcast is about, like what certain topics that you touch on and stuff like that. You have a
Um,
co-host as well, Carol, right?
yes. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a co-host. Her name's Carol. We
Shout out to
do
Carol.
shout out to Carol. I love Carol. We do superstitions, and I kind of trace the history back to um, where superstitions came from and traditions that we do all the time. Like we did one on birthday candles and vampires and Bigfoot, things like that, where that originated.
That's awesome. And that's
Throwing
totally
puppies in
like
a
right up
well.
my alley too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everything, just about everything we do now stemmed from something back in ancient Greece or Rome or Egypt that just carried, and it made sense to them at the time when they're praying to, 15 different, the god of doorways and the god of coins, and so they had to do
Yeah.
all these different things to appease this one, because everything had its very own god they had to make happy. And then
Yeah.
Christianity stepped in, and around between 400 and 1100 different areas, and a lot of things was just adapted so that we could
A,
continue. But
a lot of Christianity is, especially Catholicism, is a
mhm,
lot of paganism is incorporated into it,
yep.
and which is funny because Christians and Catholics always bash the pagans. It's like,
Mhm.
well, look what you're doing.
Yep. It was on purpose. It was strategic.
Hmm.
Like Halloween, we just did an episode on Halloween. The Celts had their Samhain, um, and it was this time of year. It was the end of harvest. It was a big celebration to end harvest and say goodbye to some family members' souls that were out roaming because they got to come back for a minute. I mean, it was just, different little things incorporated to this time of year. The
Hmm.
Catholics also had um, their day to remember the dead. It was in May. They moved theirs to coincide with Samhain, just to kind of trick the Celts, essentially. Maybe not trick, but to, I don't know, get them to join theirs.
Sure,
So
sure.
they had theirs in May. They make it up to where the Celts were in the UK and Ireland, Scotland, parts of France. And they're doing their own thing, not paying attention to the Catholics at all, because they have their own thing that they believe, and you're not going to convince them otherwise. So the Catholics start altering theirs to kind of accommodate. And then they did it again in Norway. They kind of altered their beliefs to accommodate those pagan religions. And then it's all just a big mixed up mess
Yeah, totally.
that we still honor because it's fun.
Yeah. Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
uh, all these so-called holy holidays are all stemmed from paganism,
Yep.
and we declare paganism as evil
Mm-hmm.
or heretical and all that shit. It's like, dude, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it blows my mind how, the more dogmatic that Christians get, the worse, the more judgmental they get. I've been in that kind of situation myself and pulled out of it and was like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? I had to give my head a shake and kind of look at every angle and go, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm at the point where I just believe in a creator,
Mm-hmm.
an actual one source of consciousness, and that's what I call God. Because I don't want to give God a name, because if I do, maybe I'm talking to the wrong one. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just say creator. And
I just
so,
all I know is I cannot be Greek or Roman because I can't keep track of all those. There's too many.
yeah,
I don't need a goddess of windows and a god of doorways, and
right,
I don't want anybody watching me through a mirror. But
right, yeah. No
but
Candyman for me.
right. I do believe in God. I believe, I grew up Christian, was raised Christian. I associate and believe Christian beliefs, but if we do good and be helpful and not hurtful, and that's let people be people and embrace differences and go on about our own lives.
That's just it. I mean, and because like if you say that your religion is the only way, then I think that's
Right.
where you're in the wrong,
Yeah.
you know?
And I mean, what if you're wrong?
Yeah. What if you're
What if
wrong,
you're
right?
wrong and you took 45 people down with you?
Hmm. What if I'm wrong and there is no God? Holy shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I
It
think,
comforts me to know that I was most likely created by a source. I
right.
came from somewhere. Before my consciousness got put into this flesh bag, I was
Mhm.
somewhere else. And when I leave this bag, I'm going back to where I came from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. And I believe that too. I think that we are heaven, hell, whatever. But I don't think we get to just roam. I think our energy stays, but not necessarily the essence of us. That goes to wherever we're supposed to be afterwards. But I am a firm believer in energies, and you can feel when you walk in someplace like
Oh, for
Gettysburg.
sure.
I mean, you
Yeah.
feel that energy stays there. So,
And it could be either negative or positive too.
well, yeah, yeah,
And
that's
I
what
don't know, like there's so many, like I have so many questions, and I can philosophize about all of it. But the fact is that, I don't think we're ever gonna truly know until after death. And I think
right.
that's when, questioning everything now is the best thing to do
Hmm.
until we pass, and then we'll be like, then all secrets will be revealed.
Hmm.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, now you just find what aligns and makes sense to you and do the best you can to live the best you can with your beliefs and wait and see.
For sure. What are some of your favorite episodes that you've done?
I did one on ghosts and ghost hunting. That was interesting. Just the whole idea of the things they used to do to bury the dead to keep them from coming back. It
Right.
cracked me up. I mean, just absolutely cracks me up that vampires, that was another one. They would put a bar or a pillory or something over, like, that's because if they're that's not whatever you believe, that's going to hold them, more power to you.
Yeah.
um, I am fascinated by Bigfoot, and I am from Oklahoma, and so is he apparently, in other places. But
Do you believe he exists
mhm.
or
Oh,
she?
I believe there's all sorts of things out there that exist that we've never seen.
Sure. El chupacabra.
To pick up, or I mean, those are coyotes with mange, but
Yeah, probably.
actually read an article. They thought they had finally captured one, um, by the Texas Mexican border, New Mexico, kind of all right in there together somewhere. It was a coyote with mange after DNA testing had been done. I laughed so
Yeah.
hard at that.
And of
Well, you tried.
course, first thought is El chupacabra, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So funny.
Exactly.
I think X Files had an episode about chupacabra as well. The goat sucker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. X
I
Files
haven't.
was like fucking crazy.
Uh-huh. I
Like
haven't even thought about X Files since I was in high school. We used to watch it all the time, though.
terrified me when I was in high school.
Mm.
Me and my best friend were just like, holy shit, we used to watch it all the time. We used to get freaked out, like super freaked out. Like, what
Yeah.
if this stuff exists? And then the older you get and the wiser you get, you're like, holy shit, it probably does exist.
It does, yeah.
Like half of the stuff they're talking about is like true. You know,
Mhm.
the more you look into it, it's like, holy shit, I've never seen it, but I believe it is very possible. Whereas back then when we were watching it, it was like scary, but oh, it's just fiction. And then the older the older that I got and started doing this show, or not even before I started doing the show, I was like, dude, the line between myth, fact, and
Mhm.
fiction is very, very thin,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, and with all of those things as well, vampires, Bigfoot, um, what are like Mothman,
Oh, Mothman,
you
yeah.
can trace all of those back to ancient times as well. They all had unicorns and different, there were drawings and paintings of these creatures even back then. It's not
Back then, yeah. It's nothing new, right?
right,
Like
right.
Mothman, it was new to us, like when that Richard Gere movie came out. But
Yeah.
like if you look dig deep into that, it's like, no, this thing has been around for a long time. It's a harbinger of
Mhm.
death. It's a harbinger of uh, catastrophic events, right? This thing is seen before something bad happens.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
terrifying to
It
me.
is. Yeah.
Like the angel of death almost, right?
Uh-huh. And there's, it morphs through generations and centuries of how it came about and what it is. And just, I don't know, I think maybe people trying to justify or explain something they don't understand. And
Yeah,
that's history is subjective. Even modern history, stuff that we know happened, it's still subjective because it's a person's opinion.
right.
And crapshoot whether or not you get the right, it's all going to be influenced by their emotions and their feelings of it at the time. So,
Sure. And let's face it, like history hasn't been recorded very well,
right. And you can't
you
because
know?
it's going to
Yeah.
be a human recording it who is going to be influenced by how they feel about the situation.
It's like saying that, the Holy Bible is a history book, and they say that it was written and inspired by the Holy Spirit, people who had the Holy Spirit, right?
Hmm.
It's like, well, I don't think so. You know what
And
I mean?
even
It's
if
like,
it, I mean, I am a firm believer in the Bible. I read the Bible. However, I also know the history, and I know that King James took it, reworded it to make it work for his country at the time.
sure,
And the Bible that we use, the King James version, or even the other versions, are based off of the King James version, and things were taken out or reworded. Um, and you don't know. You just the Catholic Church had also meddled with it a little bit, and then there's the Dead Sea Scrolls. Where did they fit in?
hmm
It, there's I don't know. I you just got to take what comforts you and helps you through the day and move on from there. You just use it the however you feel you need to.
yeah. I mean, you could look at the Bible and you could look at it in one of two ways. You could look at it as the holy word of God, the actual words of God given to the people that were following God with the supposed Holy Spirit within them. But it's like you can also look at it as the God of the Old Testament was a narcissistic, mean motherfucker, you know? Like, because they say Yahuwah and Yahshua were the same, but when Yeshua came, he was much less angry than the God of the Old Testament. So how can they be one and the same? So it makes you question: is the God of the Old Testament actually the devil? And Jesus came and he's Lucifer and is trying to expand our conscious. I don't know. There's so many questions,
Yeah.
but I just can't look at the God of the Old Testament as like this loving entity.
Yeah, there were things in there, but yeah, yeah, I understand that.
Pretty harsh.
A flood and yeah, Sodom and
But
Gomorrah.
there's also a guy that I had on who shows that most of the Bible is all based on astrotheology. And a lot of the things that Jesus said, a lot of the things that God said were all derived from the stars.
Hmm,
And it's all based on the story written in the stars into a an amalgamation of a text.
interesting.
And it's like a cycle. And the Hindus have
Hmm.
the Kali Yuga cycle,
Yes.
which is every cycle of, I'm not too well versed on it, but there's always a cycle of like a rising up of a society, and then its cataclysmic
Crash.
downfall,
Yep.
and then another cycle, another civilization grows, and then that one
Hmm.
gets wiped out. It's wild.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So if you grew up in a Christian household,
Hmm.
uh, were you more into it when you were a child, and then when you grew up, you started questioning it more?
I don't even think I really question it. I mean, I was raised by a tribe of preachers and teachers. Um, I went to a Christian school from the time I was in kindergarten until I graduated from high school. Church every Wednesday, Sunday. Um, I find comfort in it myself, and I do use it as like my life path, my guidance. Love your neighbor as yourself, be kind to
Mm,
others, don't kill people. That's, a nice
yeah,
thing not to do. So,
don't be a dick.
right.
Yeah, like
Um,
how hard can that be, right?
right. Yeah. So,
But
um,
there's also some people who claim to be on this path that are really, really scummy.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. You can use it like I do to guide you to be a better person, and or you can use it as some other people do to control everybody around you.
Right,
So I don't want to have to control anybody around me now that I've got my kids to the preteen years. I don't have to have my thumb on them. And yeah, it's kind of nice. So I'm just going to let everybody else do their thing and I'm going to do my own, and we'll meet in the middle. And if we can't meet in the middle, we'll go our separate ways. And they can hate me because their Bible tells them they can, and my Bible tells me not to. So I will pray for you, but I'm going to pray for you while you're way over there and I'm over here. And that's just how it's going to be.
right.
And
And sorry.
I think there's so many different ways people can take it and interpret it and
Oh,
justify
I
their
know, I know.
their actions. That why do you want that headache? Just it told you to be a good person, to be a good person. And why
And
why
isn't
do you
that
want to?
shouldn't I wish the Bible was so less complicated. I wish it was just
Mhm.
that, like you said, just the golden rule, and that's it.
Right.
Hey, this is the word of God. Don't be a dick. The end. But instead is like hours upon hours of reading, and then you have all this division amongst
Right.
the churches, right? Like so many different denominations and this and that. And it's like, dude, you can't even fucking agree on like one verse. So you had to separate and make your own church, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's so crazy to
Yeah.
me. And I think that's what turns a lot of people off who are not
Mhm.
in the faith, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it also keeps some people there too. When you can find that little tribe or branch or denomination or whatever it is that you agree with. I don't know.
Right. I feel like I found my own little church doing this podcast with like talking to all kinds of people from
Mm-hmm.
different faiths, different beliefs, different uh you know backgrounds, all kinds of stuff. And uh hell, I even had a few episodes back, I had a guy who was in a vampire cult, two of them.
Interesting.
And yeah, now after I got him on, he's bouncing around, going to different podcasts and telling his story, right? So
That's
it's pretty
awesome.
cool, right?
I wonder
And
what do you do in a vampire cult? Like, do you have to
uh
fight people? I don't want to have
no,
to get that close to people.
no, there was, he basically told me like one of the cults he was in, they would get blood from a donor, like clean blood, and they would just
Hmm.
take one drop in a syringe and go uh, on their
That's good
tongue.
because if you drink too much, it will kill you.
Yeah, I
So,
heard that. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Uh, I'm I was super curious, but he exited both of the cults. He was like, I'm not doing this. This isn't for
yeah,
me, right? Um,
blame him there.
one of them appointed him as a leader, and he wasn't striving to be a leader, but he was appointed leader. And then after that, uh, people were starting to backstab him because they wanted his spot, right? So he's like, this is supposed to be a society where we're supposed to help each other out, and you guys are like trying to stab me in the back, like it's a hierarchy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't sign up for that, so he left, right? And yeah, he's got all this like symbology, like necklaces and books and all that stuff. And he's writing his own book. I think he's finished. He just has to translate it because he's Dutch, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
it's available for free online. I told my audience, if you want this book, just either contact him or me, and I'll be able to send it to you. And it's all about how to combat the elites and live a spiritually fulfilling life.
So
Yeah, he's a cool, really cool guy. And we talk all the time now. We joke around all the time, and it's good stuff.
I bet that sounds awesome.
Doing this
Yeah.
show has been such an experience where I've met so many different people, not all like-minded, but mostly like-minded. Where we have an open, trying to expand our consciousness, trying to get all of our content out there and try to, you know, be loving and welcome other people on, jump on board, and let's get you promoted. Let's do this, let's do that. So it's
That's
just
awesome.
amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing and just kind of went for it and didn't realize how big this like podcast community is.
Oh, it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
I can't even I don't even know where I am on the spectrum of like popularity or whatever. I just kind of do what I enjoy doing, and
Hmm.
whoever hops on board is on board, and if not, that's cool. I don't need to be like this big name or anything. It'd be cool, but I'd love to like do this for a living, you know? That'd be
I
amazing.
see, and I like doing mine. Mine, we do the traditions and the superstitions, which I love. I love history, and we do a segment called "Am I the Asshole?" Historical Edition, and I
What's it
pick
called, sorry?
"Am I the Asshole?" but
Okay.
historical edition. So like I find some person from history that did something silly or something spectacular, and I write a story from their point of view, and we tried to decide if they were the asshole or not, like the lobotomy, the ice pick lobotomy. I did that guy.
Oh shit.
There was a man in my area, kind of, that convinced people, men primarily, and women with ovaries, but convinced a bunch of men that if he implanted sheep testicles or goat testicles into them, it would improve their virility. And like he did a whole bunch of that, different surgeries.
Like, like, say he would, would he remove my testicles and put the goat testicles in?
No, he just squeeze them in there beside it.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
That's like some mad scientist shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so um I would have to look, I don't even remember the guy's name now, but he also would on occasion insert the ovaries of sheep or goats into women. So one couple, he did this to the husband and the wife, and then they had a baby. And he used the picture that they named Billy, by the way, because what else would you name a baby that you got after having goat nuts inserted? I
Right.
don't. So anyway, he eventually goes to prison for mail fraud of all things. But
Wow.
yeah, um, I did one on a lady who worked on the Underground Railroad. She was a undertaker and hid slaves that were escaping in coffins, like a funeral procession, and helped them that way. I mean, just
That's
all sorts
wild.
of weird and interesting and bizarre stories. I did one on the Fox sisters, which is what started like the whole spiritualism movement in the US.
Right.
And
And that
yeah,
was Victorian era?
mhm,
Right. I did listen to that one.
1940s.
The
Yeah,
spiritualism movement really fascinated me.
me too.
Was it was 1700s, right?
It was started around the 1840s. Around the
Oh,
1700s, there was a lot of mourning and like death was a big deal and remembering your loved ones was a big deal, but the actual like communicating and trying to find them and the ghost photography with them and things like that started in the mid 1800s.
okay, yeah. So what kicked off the spiritualism movement?
The Fox sisters, they're credited with it. They were teenage kids who lived with mom and dad. Um, at some point had gone to visit their sister, their grown sister, and convinced her that her house was haunted and they could hear the ghosts. Well, come to find out they really couldn't. Um, but she saw them, they were convincing, and she was like, we can make some money and let's go. So she put them on tour and they did seances and things like that for people all
Char
over.
would you call them charlatans?
They, now, them particularly, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
they admitted to it too 40 years later. You know, this was all a hoax and here's how we did it. They somehow were able to like pop their knuckles and their toes and knees and things like that to make the knocking sounds. And
Wow.
they admitted to this
That is wild.
later on in life. I firmly believe that there are people out there that do have that connection also. So I don't think everybody was, but
That's the problem. Uh there are legitimate people who have special abilities and, let's say, gifts of the Holy Spirit.
right,
And like, people will either condemn them or um what's the word? Encourage them to use them,
right. Yeah.
right?
You're either going to hate it or
Mine
you're going to love it.
my
So,
own is, I believe that God communicates with me very obviously through my dreams.
mhm.
And I see it all the time. It doesn't surprise me
Oh,
anymore.
you lost sound or I lost sound.
Uh-oh. Am I good? Hello?
Oh, and
Hold
my
on.
internet connect. There you go.
Am I good?
Yep, now I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, my dreams are very obviously that's how God communicates with me. Shows me
Mhm.
things, other people, my ancestors, they give me messages. Um
Are you
it
native or
no, I think my ancestry is from England.
okay?
Yeah. My dad's side of the family is from Newfoundland.
Oh,
Yeah. My mom's side is from Quebec, which is French Canadian.
mm-hmm.
But, Newfoundland is more English slash, I think more English than Irish. But yeah, I think there's some Irish in there too. Kind of a mutt, really.
Oh, so me too. Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
Irish, English. We have native. I am a card-carrying member of the Chickamauga tribe.
Okay.
Um, on my mom's side, my dad, that's where the Riley came from, and they have somebody, one of my dad's uncles or great uncles or something, had it traced all the way back to Ellis Island when we changed our name from O'Reilly to Riley.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
uh,
So, for example, like I don't do it very often, but when I do, it's probably 90 to 95% of the time. If I ask for a message from God, I
mhm.
will get it the same night in my sleep, in my dream.
Oh wow. And see, I don't even know my dreams. I don't remember my dreams, but I do believe in like the in signs, feathers or rocks or animal crossings or but my belief kind of aligns more with native than um but why are there so many different kinds of animals and rocks and gemstones and plants and all of that if they weren't here for a reason? I
Right.
I don't I'm sure God loves beauty too, but I don't think he went to the trouble of making all these different things just so that we had something pretty to look at. I think it all serves a purpose.
For sure it does. It's all part of creation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And yeah, creation looks beautiful,
Yeah.
but everything is there for a purpose. Just like in a movie, it's been said that a director will always put everything in the shot is there for a purpose, right? Like that cereal box that you
Uh-huh.
see in the background where a character is talking in the foreground is there for a purpose. What purpose? Don't know,
Exactly.
but it's there for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is put here for a purpose. All the plants, all the animals, plants have so many different uh, capabilities
Mm-hmm.
of healing or poison. Like and it's there for us to discover.
Oh yeah.
And that's the beauty of it is
Or
what can we do
rediscover
with
at this
this?
point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was discovered, our ancestors, that's how they treated all of their illnesses. And
Sure.
they didn't do the best job sometimes, but that was medicine. And the more schooling and knowledge and chemistry and science kind of came in and pushed the herbalists out, and then we decided they were witches and we're going to burn them at the stake and hang
Yeah,
them.
yeah. That's what's unbelievable to me. Like, even if you go like if you look at certain illnesses or um cures,
Mhm.
cures mostly. If you look up cures for certain illnesses, natural cures, it's always going to say, but there's no scientific evidence to support this claim, right? And it's like, well, why don't you do the research then and then make science?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, why don't you make it a
Like,
part of our healing?
yeah. Tell me why this has carried on for centuries
Yeah.
that people have been saying this herb will cure this disease for centuries. And
Yeah,
you're telling me that right now there's not enough scientific research on it to know if
exactly.
that's true or not.
Yeah. Because they don't want it to be part of the mainstream
Mm-hmm.
science because God forbid we have an actual cure for anything
Right.
instead of just keeping us on the medication
Mm-hmm.
to keep that money train rolling, right?
Exactly. It's not good
Like,
business.
for example, I had my good friend from another good friend from the Netherlands, Rob Nolken, on. I believe it was my last episode, where he went on a shamanic
Yes,
ayahuasca. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
listened
yeah,
to that
like
one too. Yeah.
I was looking into ayahuasca and I was looking into Cambo, especially the frog poison that they
Mm-hmm.
put in his burns. And it's, yeah, like for centuries they've been using this as a cure for a lot of toxins in the body. And then sure enough, at the end of the article, but there's no scientific evidence to, it's like, but dude, like people claim all the time, you know, like take people's testimonials and make
Mm-hmm.
it scientific fact.
Yep.
Fuck.
See,
It
I
drives
have
me
lupus.
nuts.
I was diagnosed with lupus when I was 8.
Okay.
Actually, I was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis when I was 7 and lupus when I was 8. And it never really gave me a whole lot of problems growing up. Um, After I had my first daughter, like it started acting really bad. 2019, I got really, really sick. I broke out in hives, head to toe, and lots of edema. It was like I looked like Elephant Man. Like I would wake up one morning and my lip would be swollen, or the tip of my
Oh,
nose was swollen, or it was just bizarre.
right.
And my primary ended up leaving. He doesn't even practice anymore. He teaches because of me, because he couldn't figure me out. Like was me and a couple of other of his patients. It's
You
like
made
you
him
can
quit?
sleep. Yes.
Holy shit, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
But he sent me to an allergist to try to figure these hives out and couldn't get them figured out. It ended up being ulcer or urticarial vasculitis, which is inflammation in your blood vessels that presents as hives.
Okay.
I
But
ended
they're
up on
not really hives?
no, no, it
Okay.
just looks like hives. It's
Right. It's
identical
not
to
like the
hives.
hives diagnosis. Yeah.
Right. So I ended up on chemo and anti-rejection meds for a year from it. While I'm doing this, I started looking into nutrition therapy and herbal medicine and things like that. And ended up like I haven't had a flare since then. I'll get itchy when I eat things I know I'm not supposed to eat, anything that is inflammatory, like dairy products here in the US. Um, Dairy products in other places are okay, other countries, because of the pasteurization methods. Um, Red meat is real bad for causing inflammation, caffeine, sugar, processed foods. Anyway, there's a whole list of things I avoid. And if I eat something that I know I shouldn't, I will, little patches here and there, but not head to toe like it was. I
Right.
haven't done that since. Um, but like the chemo I took, one of the side effects is cancer. Like, tell me, I take my thyroid right after I had my first baby. My thyroid decided it was retired and quit doing its job. So they put me on a thyroid med. Synthroid, which is the most common thyroid med, hurts your thyroid. The longer you take it, the less likely it is to heal itself.
Of
So
course.
once you start taking it, you never get to stop. Whereas there were herbs I could have taken that would have just like reset it. But at the time, I didn't know that.
And
So
there's no scientific evidence to back it up.
exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
my kid's 20 now, so my oldest is 20. I've been taking it for 20 years.
Well, that's
And
good.
every 6 months going in and having lab work done to see where we are, and oh, we need to take less, and oh, we need to take more. And it's, it's
This is the hero's
shifting.
journey. It's
Uh-huh.
know thyself, right? And
So,
the better that you know yourself, the more you can
mhm.
have the energy to love other people,
Yeah.
right?
So ever since, I got real sick, my kids, they like, Mom, I've got a cold sore. And let me make you something. We're not going to the store and buying nothing. Let me here, put this on it. Or drink this tea. Just
It's funny when people get a cold sore, they buy like a gel or something. That's I call it cold sore highlighter.
mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you put gel on it, so now I can see your cold sore.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Ah, I've never had a cold sore. Knock wood.
Let's see, and I haven't either.
Superstition. Knock wood. I love
Yeah.
that one.
Knock on. Yes, we knock on wood because of this, the fairies, the tree
Yeah,
sprite that protect us. But
but
yeah,
yeah,
I've
never had a
never had
cold
one
sore.
either.
I had a coworker the other day. She's like, I have a fucking cold sore. I'm like, how'd you get that? She's like, I don't know. I've never had one before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And my other coworker told me a funny joke. How does a woman eat herpes? With her carrots.
Okay. Of course. They
Yeah,
go hand in hand.
peas and carrots. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
um, but yeah, like it's crazy to me that I honestly do think like because we talked about how not you and I, but I've talked before about how um the technology that is in mainstream society has already is like 20 years too late. They've
Hmm.
Whoever invented the technology had it 20 years prior before we
Right.
get it. And I'm a big believer, even before I started doing all this shit, that they have the cure for cancer. They have the cure for leukemia. They have the cure for all these diseases, but they just choose not to put it into mainstream society. This is why, and you know, I don't believe in donating to cures for cancer and all that shit. That's a tax write off for the company who's promoting it. And
Hmm.
also, the fucking cure is already there. Where are we putting our money? You know,
Right.
I don't know how you think about that, but like every time I see a donation, I'm just like, no, I'm good.
No. Yeah. If it'll help children with their needs, that's where I like my charity goes to kids or people with learning
Yeah,
disabilities for the needs they have right this minute. But
yeah.
as far as
I
foundations for research, I'm not.
yeah. Like AIDS was like Dr. Fauci is the one who put out the meds for HIV, which was giving people full blown AIDS. And we're supposed to trust him with COVID. You know,
No.
oh, like there's so many things you have to be aware of when it comes
Hmm.
to the mainstream media because the mainstream media is bought and paid for,
Yep.
and they're just going to give us the narrative that they want, right? So this is all stuff I've already discussed on my show, but it needs to be brought up time and time again to like kind of pound that nail into people's heads. Even my dad um took I think 2 or 3 COVID shots when I already gave him the information about what was going on with COVID. But the only reason why he did it was because my mom had Alzheimer's and she was in a nursing home and he had to be vaccinated to go in to visit her. And I gave him all this information and he comes home and he looks at me and he's like, look what I got. I'm like, no. You know what I mean? Like the shot for the COVID, right? I'm like, dude, after all the shit and then he comes back with another one. And he's like, well, I want to go see your mom. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So do I, you know? Um, but he's like, I wish I never got those shots because I haven't been the same since.
Hmm.
He feels it mentally, he feels it physically. My mom passed away no October 13th this year,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
yeah, it was a rough ride.
I bet.
Um, but yeah, like he totally regrets taking any of those shots.
Hmm.
And even the flu shot, like I won't get a flu shot because when I was about 22 or yeah, I think it was about 21, 22, I got a flu shot and instantly, like my dad drove me and I got the flu shot. We got in the car, we started pulling out of the parking lot, and instantly I sneezed about five or six times, and I just my lungs filled with mucus, and I could
Hmm.
barely breathe. And I
Yeah.
had the
Well, and
flu for like 2 weeks. I was
mhm.
totally bedridden. I had fever. I was hallucinating because I had such a high fever.
Yeah.
And then I got it again, maybe a couple years later, and the exact same thing happened to me. I'm like, okay, that's it. No more flu shots for me.
Right. See, I can't have a flu shot because of my lupus, because it is a live virus. It's a diluted live virus.
Right.
So my immune system is already confused about life and is not sure what it's doing. And it would see that. And you might very well have an autoimmune too, but mine would do
I
the
do
same thing.
have autoimmune because I have Crohn's disease.
Oh, yeah, then you should never have gotten a flu shot to begin with.
Right.
Um,
But I didn't know this was
right.
pre-diagnosis, and
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
went through hell
Yep.
in my mid
Because
to late 20s during college. I had to drop out of college because my Crohn's was so bad. I didn't even I wasn't even diagnosed at that point. I was overweight. I had diarrhea every day. Sorry for all that, but it was horrible. And I finally got diagnosed, and then I got on the proper medication. And then I was like, "Holy shit! This caused a slew of hell for me because it was pure anxiety. I thought I was dying of cancer. Uh, I got scoped, and they diagnosed me with the Crohn's, and I was super relieved. I got on the right medication. I was on anti-anxiety medication because I thought I was dying. So it was all health related mental problems, right?
oh yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
understand that completely. That's when I started taking
yeah,
mine as
and
well.
when I found out, I was on Paxil for like 3 4 years, and when I found out that I didn't have cancer and I was properly medicated, I started eating better, and then my Paxil started kicking into high gear, and I went manic, and I started writing music. I started feeling I'm one with the universe. I'm one with everybody. And then I got off the Paxil and it all changed. And I went through this massive depression
Oh,
because
wow.
the anxiety meds weren't there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like my synapses shrunk back. And this is when I went on my biblical spiritual journey because I was like, I felt like a god and now I feel like a piece of shit. And then I went through all this stuff and I dropped like 80 pounds within 6 months because I felt like Superman.
Wow.
It was like my second chance to live because I thought I was dying. And then I went through all that. And then when I got off the Paxil, it fucked me up. I had brain trauma because it's an SSRI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stopped taking that. I weaned off of it, but like after the third month, I don't know who I am anymore. I just lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to chase that feeling of feeling like I am a god on top of the world to I lost myself. I need to find God again. And then I started gaining my weight back and all this shit. It's crazy what happened to me.
Wow.
It's so wild.
And
But now
scary.
I see it is, and I see all these people saying, to when I tell my story, they're like, "You had an artificial way of finding God through a drug, and you felt like you were superior and this and that. There is another way to do that, but you gotta cut this out, cut that out, and do this and do that." And it's just like I don't know what the fuck is true and what's not anymore. So it's like the Ouroboros where the snake is chasing its own tail. You know what I mean? It's like coming full circle back to myself again and going through the Bible and being dogmatic and getting out of that and coming back to my old self again. And it's a wild ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Forever. I mean, you just do what you can do and find who you are. You'll find it
Yeah,
eventually. And once you're comfortable and you feel like you know what's going on with life, something's gonna happen and you're gonna have to start all over again. And I don't
yeah,
know, it's just the beauty of life. I think you're not meant to be stationary and feel on top of the world all of the time.
yeah. But God, I tell you, it felt amazing.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
but how
remember,
amazing would it feel if that was your whole life forever? I mean, there's got to be something to knock you down from that.
I think it'd be pretty amazing.
I mean, yeah, probably would be pretty amazing, but impossible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now I look back at it, and like I remember this one moment in particular when I went out to, like, I had dreams of like super super vivid dreams where I was walking through a field and lightning was coming down, and the lightning looked so real, and it was like striking at my feet, but I was just walking right through it at peace, knowing that I wasn't gonna get hit by the lightning, and everybody around me was panicking, and I was like, "It's okay, everything's good," you know. And I remember one moment in particular where I just went to the after those lightning dreams, I went to the bookstore and I grabbed a couple books. And on my way home, it got really dark and it started. The lightning bolts were insane. I was like, "Holy shit!" But again, I felt no fear. And I got home and I was sitting outside on my side porch of the house and just watching the trees and how it looked like they were breathing. And I felt like I was absolutely one breathing with the trees at the same time. And it's like, and I was totally sober. I wasn't like on mushrooms or anything. It was just like, God, I wish I could feel this all the time.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
you ever had moments like that where you were just like,
Like this
I
is
just,
exactly where I'm supposed to be
exactly. Yeah.
at this moment, and life could not be better than this moment right
Yeah.
here. Hmm.
Honestly, I still feel that, but not as intense as it was when I was on that medication, right? I still get moments of that where I'm just like, ah, everything is
Hmm.
perfect. Even when my life is not the best. My mom just died. My dad, I'm taking care of my dad, this and that. But destiny calls,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Things happen for a reason to put you where you're supposed to be at the time. So,
Yeah. I'm not a starving child in Africa.
right.
That's another thing that I tell people is I try to give people perspective when they are
Mhm.
down and out. You know, I'm like, dude, your life isn't as bad as you think.
Right.
Like, look at yourself. You got a house, you got a car, you got food on the table.
Hmm.
How is that so bad? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I live mine too. I know that things can be worse and things can always be better. Things can always be worse. And you just got to be happy with where you are.
Yeah. And this is where the Bible kicks in too. because I've
Hmm.
learned so much from the Bible. I've learned so many different quotes that really stick with me when I feel like I'm up shit's creek without a paddle. Be thankful for what you have, but also be thankful for what you don't have.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep. Yeah.
what is,
And everything is perfect and you are exactly have everything you want. Where do you go from there? Like, what's the
not
point then?
necessarily what you want, but you have everything you need. And I
Yeah.
told somebody the other day, I said, I don't really worry about money. I don't worry about being broke or whatever. I just kind of ride the wave.
Hmm.
I said, every time that I feel like I'm going to be financially fucked over, God somehow has a way to, if you're patient with your
Hmm.
finances, it's like money just like somehow appears out of thin air. It happens to me.
Hmm.
So I try
Yeah,
not to
money
worry about
is.
it. And then I use
Mhm.
I think it was yeah, Jesus talked about how the birds, why would you worry about getting your food?
Look at the sparrow.
The
Yeah.
Let's look at the sparrow. They always find their food. Do they worry? No. So if you were made greater than the birds, why would you worry?
Yep.
Right? That's that's a lesson that people need to really get into their head because people worry so much, and worry is
Hmm.
what kills people.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really bad for you. It can cause all sorts of physical
Oh,
issues.
manifestations, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. Kristen, I think we'll wrap it up.
All right.
It's been lovely talking to you.
It was. It was
Um,
a good time.
one more time, where my audience can find you, please.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
What's your link tree?
Um, I don't know.
It's usually link tree.
I have one.
Yeah.
Uh, it's
Okay.
Superstitions and Traditions, and I'm on Instagram. If you search that, you'll pull me up,
And then
and
the
my
link tree's in
is
their
right there.
bio. Yeah. But I'll put your link tree in the bio and then or the show notes and then they can find you.
All right, that'll work.
Awesome.
I'm new to this. I'm just now learning all of it. So I just
Oh,
got a link tree not too long ago.
yeah, Lake Tree saved me because I had too many links and I'm like, what the fuck? I can't like put all these things. And then it just
Uh-huh.
shrunk it into one thing. And now it's like, okay, cool. You know?
Yeah.
But the
Yep.
problem
Yep.
with Linktree is it gives you like a weird name. Like, oh, go to
Oh.
Linktree / blah 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 blah. But no, just look at the show notes. You'll find.
All right, that'll work because I don't know my weird link tree name.
Awesome. Well, it was great to actually sit down and have a convo with
It
you.
was. I enjoyed talking
And
with you.
I'm gonna be listening to more of your stuff because it's pretty cool. And I like the wind chimes at the end.
Oh, thank you. I love wind chimes.
Yeah, me
So
too.
yeah, we're getting ready for season 2. So
Yeah, there
stay
you go.
tuned.
Season 2 coming out. Okay, cool.
All right. And
I
I've
just I
enjoyed
just
yours. So
label all my episodes as season 1 and then just put it as episode number or something.
yep.
Right?
Yep, I noticed
Yeah.
that. I think it was you're up to like 170 something
I
or
think this is 74 or 75 now, I think. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I
cool.
had a blast.
I'm
Thanks for
glad.
inviting
Thank you.
me.
You're welcome.
And I'm sure we'll talk soon. We'll have to have you on ours sometime also.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, just let me know, invite me, and yeah, good to go.
All right.
Cool. Have
Well,
fun.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.